check this.
Pleasure to start an event exactly on time, 7 p.m. with a full house. I know this is love for Saeed and I'm delighted to be part of that. My name is Kartika, I'm the publisher at Westland and Context, which has published this wonderful book. And welcome all of you to the official launch of this book. I worked with Saeed before when I was in another publishing house and we published a novel. And it's a novel that one deeply loved for its ability to look back and tell stories about the past and about different cultures with such erudition that you quite forgot that this was a novel and not a book that was meant to inform and educate and thrill, all of which it did. From then to here, it's a completely different narrative, but I think the truth-telling that that book did and this one does are in some ways similar. The narratives come straight from the heart. You can feel the wisdom and tell that this comes from many years of thinking about that. And I said, okay.
Thank you very much, Kartika. And in this particular instance, one call from Saeed and there was no question of not saying yes. Firstly, it's not often that I get to see him, so that was that. He's a traveler. He lives in two different parts of the country, and so this was one great opportunity. Also, it's been a while since I've had occasion, and this is my personal selfish reason, I've had occasion to sit with him and discuss several things. I know a few of these things that he has written about because he has been sharing with me. At this moment in India's history, in world history also, there are many disturbing things. This is not a prognosis. It's certainly not a dissection or an analysis. It's one person's view, but the way it is done, where Saeed talks about everything, about his childhood, about growing up, about getting involved in seeing world issues around him. These are issues that I may say we all grew up with, a lot of people grew up with.
No, it looks eclectic, but it was a way of कहते ख्यालों को समेटना. I never was localized. I was always an internationalist in my soul, the way I was brought up. So therefore, I tried to see things both locally and internationally simultaneously. And the point is, how do you do it? How can you construct a novel? Sorry, I will take that word. Construct a book that can contain the international and the local, and in that give it some kind of a coherence. It's a deeply political book, but backed by, I think, moments of lyricism, moments of a sense of loss, but by and large, the overarching idea is political. Now that was the attempt in this book. How far I've achieved it, I'm not so sure. I never am sure. But to me, these are constructs of mind. I can see myself like, I don't write a book. They're installations in my mind. And then I put them together and I hope, like hell, they become linear to my reader so that they can somehow hold on to it, follow it. Because that's the way I see things. Because that's the only way I can come to terms with the world as I try to decode it. This is the only construct that I can use in terms of literature. That's the way I've functioned. So I hope I've answered your question.
And I think it reminds me of a saying, there was a Jewish rabbi who said something when I was young and stupid, I used to be dazzled by eloquence. But as I got older, the only thing that touches me is human kindness. I think what is unique about this book, that even when you tear the opponent to shreds, you have the ability to reflect. You have the ability to look at your wants and you question whether you have rubbed them the wrong way or you have been overtly critical when they should perhaps be applauded. So I think this is a very unique book, and as I entered I said, this is a very good book. Alim Bakshi Sahab used to say, कि भैया किताब अगर दोस्त की है तो अच्छी है, दुश्मन की तो बहुत बुरी है. तुम दोस्त तो अच्छी है ही, मगर this is an extraordinary book because it has the audacity of hope, and it looks unflinchingly at the reality. It doesn't. It reminds me of Saeed Saab's song, वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी, उसका एक मुखड़ा था जो इस्तेमाल नहीं हुआ था, जो हमने हमारी फिल्म बेगम जान में इस्तेमाल किया था, कि वो सुबह हम ही से आएगी. वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी नहीं, वो सुबह हम ही से आएगी. So here we are at this moment saying, we will bring that dawn which has, because we can't allow people to wrench away the soul of India by anyone. And let us not confuse, no matter what mandate a political party gets, the nation is not the government. The nation's soul is much bigger than any government. This is what resonates in every page of this book, and that is why I think this book is an extraordinary book. This is an extraordinary book.
Is this, you think, a message for, as he also ended, is this a message for today? Is this a book about today? It's a book about yesterday, but is it about today?
Yeah, very much so, because for me, I think it's one of the most political books I've read in a very, very long time. And it's political not only in the context of, talking about the manufactured divide or what the idea of India was. And I think that comes out very clearly in the mansions and in the growing up in the community. But also it links up the lynching of, in 93, I think you talk about the possible linking of that milkman, which is there, the lynchings which are going on now, the issues of stopping at a grave to pay your respect without knowing the community of that grave. For me, that was something which is very, very essential. And the defining structure, and this is something I find will also appeal very, very much, not only to people like us who are, so-called, read a lot or theorize a lot, but also to a lot of young people. And the defining structure, the defining element of this book is really, I think, the poetry of the collective. That is something which comes out for me very, very strongly. So at one level you have the hope component, but it's also like Sufism एक होता था ना हमारा, आपने भी बोला कि तू ही दर्द है और तू ही दवा है. So it's in the questions which you have raised where I find the answers. So it's not so much hope, despair for me as a reflection of a reality and a philosophical, poetic reflection of a reality.
Mass consumption compels you to cater to the lowest common denominator. That is what we have, grown up with. Unless you endorse, perpetuate and defend the value system, you will not find mass success. So any alternate thought needs an alternate platform, and those platforms are disappearing. But there is a hope that with the digital age descending on us, that alternate voice will finally percolate down. I think there is a change which is taking place. You can't see it, but there is a rage which is fermenting. Oasis somewhere in this
don't put too much this. I think we've covered a lot of ground and we've intrigued people about this. There will be questions. So I have only one request. Keep the questions short and tell us who you're asking for. Before that, Saeed, there was a question, there was a thought that I think we can manage 3 or 4 minutes. Would you like to read some?
We tell stories.
This is like the news now that they put the mic into your face. What's your opinion about it?
What do you feel? You've just come out of a house collapse or something. What do you feel?
No, you're lying in a hospital bed. You're recovering from shock and trauma that might come into your face. What do you? It's incredible. What terrorists say, man.
I think I'll make life simpler. Take anything.
All right, I'll read a passage. It's called A Tale of Reaching Out. A few years ago, I was driving on a dusty road in the Gulbarga district of Karnataka when I noticed some graves under a huge shady tree in a vast empty field. The image was surreal because the tree seemed to be flourishing in a parched landscape. It was as though its only function was to protect the graves from the blazing heat. The image of the tree and the graves returned to me. As we neared the truck, I asked my chauffeur come Man Friday Ayub to stop the car in reverse. My wife Jennifer, sitting at the back of the car, was surprised. Why are we reversing? She asked. Those graves look so incredibly lonely, so I'm going to pay them a visit. Towards the graves. I looked at the grave solemnly for a while and then up at the tree. In this desolate landscape, the graves seemed to be in the perfect shady spot. Who were the people buried here? The grave did not look very ancient. Were they members of a family? Who did this empty and dusty field belong to? Were they descendants of the people in the graves? Since the grave looked somewhat abandoned, I also wondered if there was a caretaker to look after them. As these thoughts crossed my mind, I noticed that the truck driver and the cleaner had also joined us and was standing next to the graves in silence. We stood for some more moments
Spoke about 500 crores being turned into 1,000 crores. And when we were questioned about in terms of films, why can't film be made to take up this cause? And you're back to the same thing, 550 crores in the film, I have to recover money out of it. So how is it any different?
No, we have no illusions. We are in the business of entertainment and we never in the mainstream, at least the industry that I joined where we made popular films which was committed to getting bums on the seat. Our be-all and the end-all was box office. We never claimed to ourselves. I think Saeed represented that alternate stream which made films which was not committed to that ideology. One tried in one's lifetime to make movies like Saransh and Sakhun, which kind of did for personal gratification. But the business of entertainment is committed only to getting numbers, and I don't expect the news business to be different. But as I said, like I imagined Mr. Gadkari was different from me. I imagine that the newspaper that came to my house was run by people with conscience, and they kept the principles before profit, till I discovered, hey, that's something which they sell. They are exactly like us. So that's why I said, which I told to Nitin Kadril sahab, Hamam mein sab nange. He said, haan, sab nange. We all want power over profit is more important. Principles are not so important.
I think somebody there, yeah, please. But I think we can have the discussion.
We can have the discussion.
आइए आइए फोटो फोटो
आइए
इस काम के लिए आया आओ
क्या है फोटो ऑफ है Is this a photo op?